2024 presidential hopefuls took the debate stage for the second time last night. While frontrunner Donald Trump did not attend, he still dominated large parts of the conversation.
So for more analysis, we want to bring in Republican strategist and CBS News political analyst Leslie Sanchez, as well as CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Great to see both of you guys. I mean, I don't know how you guys were feeling about this debate, but I was less enthusiastic about it than I was the first one. I just, I thought it's going to be a repeat of what we saw before, minus, Asa Hutchinson. Leslie, did any candidate really move the needle last night?
The one who moved the needle, Anne-Marie, I think it's an interesting point. The last debate, people arguably would say that was Nikki Haley. And I think she made points again on this debate. Was there a clear winner? No, there was such a frenzy, and many friends, that are texting that were in the auditorium say it was like the Wild West. There was so much chaos in terms of speaking over each other. But what was distinct, and I didn't want to talk about Nikki Haley for a second, she cleared two big hurdles. She looks very and sounds very competent, and she has the credibility. And for female candidates, particularly, those two C's are really tough areas to cross when people start challenging them on a national platform. So I think in that sense, she gained points. Vivek did extremely well, too. But coming out of this, there's not a clear understanding that any of them, even collectively, if you look at all the support they have together, still doesn't trump Trump. So there's still a lot of work to do on the GOP primary.
So really quickly, she did really well in the last debate. She did well in this debate, as you say. Why isn't she moving the needle more than in polls?
I think she'll get a small bump out of this one. But what's interesting to follow, there's a tremendous groundswell of support of Republican women. Now, these are going to be more suburban women, college-educated women that are throwing their hat in the ring, their support, but they're throwing their dollars in the ring, too. And I think that's a story that's going to continue to unfold with her. Her appeal is broad, but it's still early. So if you're looking at just, somebody like a Haley, I think Anna DeSantis, those two did extremely well. And we're going to see that kind of support continue in those directions. But it's still, again, that looming question mark of where does it go after January.
And Joel, this question is for you. When you think about the Democrats and talking about Nikki Haley, is she a threat or should she be a concern for Democrats or any of the other candidates that we heard from last night?
Well, Jerika, just to maybe pick up on what Leslie was saying, I learned a lot about lease sales and about curtains and also about features last night. I'm not sure if I saw a president up on that stage, and I don't necessarily think it was individually any of their faults per se. I think I tend to agree with Leslie that Nikki Haley probably did the most for herself, but collectively that stage just made those candidates all feel small and really small in comparison to Donald Trump. Not because Donald Trump was speaking to another group in Michigan last night, but because they did not seem like they were in the same primary. Donald Trump seems like he's running his own race, and these seven and the others who weren't included on the stage seem like they're running in a different race. Yeah. And that dynamic did not move or did not change. Just really quickly on your point about Democrats, I think if you look at the compare, contrast, and the entire strategy of the Biden White House apparatus and his campaign apparatus wanting to put the split screen up of what Joe Biden is doing versus what Republicans are doing, I think yesterday was a good day. I thought the ad contrasting him with Donald Trump was really strong. And actually, I thought it was probably the biggest acknowledgement / resignation from Biden world that Donald Trump is going to be his opponent in 2024. And I think that was probably the biggest news out of yesterday for me.
Leslie, one thing that was a little bit different is more of the candidates who are willing to openly criticize Donald Trump, not just Chris Christie, which we know that's why he got into the race, but even like Ron DeSantis a little bit. I wondered if it was the spirit of Ronald Reagan being in the library, being in a community of probably more traditional Republicans than Trumpy Republicans made them feel like they wouldn't get booed if they criticized him. Right.
There was still some boos to go around. I mean, let's not. Anytime they criticized Trump, the boos were loud and they were vocal if you were in that room. So we can't discount exactly, I would say, where Joel was going. Trump is still the front runner. Trump is already running a general election. And it did sound like these were echoes and jabs in another room, in another auditorium, in another time. And it's important that they're trying to draw that distinction. But I think there's so many chapters to this book in terms of how the twists and turns that are going to happen leading into January. And the pall of legal cases that hang over the president, it's going to continue to shift where voters feel they are. So I think it's a start, but we do not have a clear understanding of any of these contenders moving forward and trumping the front runner.
And again, going to Joel, I know it was very chaotic last night with a lot of yelling and even the folks hosting having a hard time getting a handle on the candidates. But do you think there was a topic that was avoided that voters want to hear more about from these GOP candidates?
Abortion. And it seems like, two, abortion and also kind of broader democracy issues. Donald Trump, we just ran a segment earlier in this show with, General Milley talking about Donald Trump threatening his life, essentially. You didn't hear about those issues, but I'd say more pursuant to maybe what most voters, what's on their minds, abortion. I guess also just to maybe, again, just kind of picking up on a point that Leslie made just about what we saw last night. I think Republicans, it feels to me, have a fundamental misunderstanding. These Republicans on the stage last night have a fundamental misunderstanding of their voters. And this is what it all comes back to with Trump. I know Trump has become a national political topic and, frankly, a national political challenge, but he's first a Republican challenge. And I don't know if the Republican Party and the folks who are ambassadors of the Republican Party understand him and his appeal and what his voters are looking for. And that is the fundamental tension that I think we saw at play last night, and I think that continues to permeate the primary.
Geez, Joel, you bring up two really good points that I wanted to pivot over to Leslie about. I can't figure out which one. We're going to run out of time. I wanted to ask you about abortion being a challenging issue for Republicans, but maybe I like that last point about understanding Donald Trump and if whether or not he remains the biggest problem for Republicans.
The last question was talking about, you're in the hall of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was a different style of republicanism, and that the populist nature and the strength within the party right now, that is the friction. That is the point that Joel is talking about, and that is real. There are many people that harken back to even the Nikki Haley style, this very collegial conservative opportunity that they used to talk about George W. Bush, opportunity conservatism. Let me get that right. Those are not the echoes. They want somebody to go toe to toe with a broken federal system, and that style is what they're looking for, and that is the appeal of a Donald Trump. So you see and hear it in DeSantis. I've won big fights on big stages argument. That is not the Ronald Reagan style. So until the party really figures out where it wants to go with respect to that, there's going to be this rumble.
Interesting stuff. Leslie, Joel, always great talking to you guys.
Thank you.